I've been asked a lot of questions recently about deep pour resin, so I thought I'd help answer some of them today. Deep pour resin is really important if you're pouring deep, because it will prevent lots of bubbles, but also it will really prevent those dangerous flash cures. And I did a video on that a while back. So what I'm going to do today is 2 projects, but I'm also going to include a method that I've done a few times before on my channel, but I've been asked about recently again, and that's adding stamps into here to give like a relief design. Now when I'm using a deep pour resin and I'm using stamps, I tend to use a tack it over glue rather than just putting the stamp onto the base. And that's because deep pour is going to be in there for probably about 48 hours, and it's a lot thinner resin and it can dislodge these, especially when there's a lot of liquid in there and then they float to the top. And I don't want that to happen. So by using a tack it over glue, that will prevent that from happening. Really easy. It's not going to react with your resin. All you need to do is put a little dot on like that, and then make sure that you paint it all over right up to the edges. And that way you won't get any bubbles released from underneath it. Let it go completely clear, and then you know it's dry. And this will then stick on there really, really well, and it won't come off. I use this glue an awful lot for so many different things. It's well worth having in your crafting studio as a go-to glue. So I'm going to do 2 different projects. This one I'm going to do, it's like a bookmark. It's not a bookmark. Could you imagine how thick that would make your book if you use that bookmark? Honestly, Stephen, will you sort yourself out? I'm going to make a bookend. So this would be something that you could put here with your children's books along. You could make 1, you could make 2, but I'm just going to make 1 today. And this is the Let's Resin mold, and it tells me exactly how much resin I need on there, which is really useful. But I'm also going to make a S mold as well, S for Stephen. And I'm really into my florals at the moment, so I'm going to use some floral patterns in this. So while they're drying, I'll tell you a bit about deep pour. Deep pour allows you to pour a lot more resin in one go. It's also a lot slower curing. It's so good for projects of this sort of size and for things like river tables and that sort of thing. You can actually get it in quite large bottles. I've got 2 gallons of it here, and when you buy it by 2 gallons, it comes with this as well, which you can attach to your drill and help you to stir it up. But I use quite a lot of deep pour, therefore I do buy it in quite large quantities. Now the best deep pour that I know of and that I've ever used, and I've used quite a lot, is definitely the Tea Expert. I would strongly recommend it. I normally have a discount code for Tea Expert, so I will leave that in the description below. And always mix it up as a 2 to 1. If you use 600 millilitres of part A, then you would only need 300 millilitres of part B. So these are starting to dry now, and once they're fully dry like this one, where it's gone completely clear, then they're ready to use. Please don't touch them, because you will take that tacket off if you touch them, and then they're not going to stick as well. So while they're finishing off drying, I can mix my resin up, because I don't have to rush with the pot time. Even though you're mixing a lot up, you will still get about a 60 to 80 minute pot time with this, so you've got plenty of time, and that way I can allow it to disperse any bubbles that I mix into it. Or you could put it in your debubbler if you wanted to, if you've got one, but if you haven't got one, then this is the best way to do it. Also, because of the viscosity of this, it's quite a thin resin, it will release bubbles. You'll see at the end, it will be completely bubble free, and that's what I love about the Tea Expert. Now I'm going to be using these smaller bottles because I'm not going to open my big bottles for this, and you can get it in a variety of sizes that best suit you. Now I've marked my jug here at 400 and 600, so I'll put part A in first, then part B, and this jug will take it, and that will mix up enough for this one. And then in my other jug, I'll mix up enough for this one, put it to one side, and then let it degas. Now, if you're wondering where I got these brilliant bowls from, they come in my resin toolkit, which is a great price, great value, and it has some really good quality stuff in it. I'll link that in the description below. I partnered with Tea Expert for that as well. So I'm ready now to put my bits in and pour my resin. I'm working on a bit of board here, and this is a great tip, because when I've finished this, I want to carry on doing some more work in my work area. I can just lift this up easily and move it to one side in an area that's nice and level on one of my Tea Expert leveling boards, and then I can carry on working and it doesn't spill, where if you pick up a mold, often you spill all the resin out of it. And now these are nice and dry, all I have to do is put them in where I want them. Now I'm putting these in quite random, I don't really have a plan. And the reason I'm using tweezers is because I don't want to touch them with my gloves because it will stick to my glove and then I can't get it off. And then once they're on, all you got to do is give it a bit of a squidge. No widgie, just squidge. Make sure they are on there fully. Now, I've put one on the side here, as you can see, as a bit of an experiment, really, to see if that will come out. And that should have stuck there nicely now and isn't going to go anywhere. I'll finish off putting them in exactly the same way, and then I'll show you how to pour your resin as to avoid trap bubbles and things. I've got my resins ready now, and these are all stuck in, like I said. I'm just going to give them one quick going over to ensure that none of them have come loose. But even if they do come loose, because you're using a deep pour resin, it stays thin and liquid for a while. All they'll do is they'll float up to the top, and you can scoop them out, or you can leave them where they are and then take them out at the end. Now, I'm going to colour my resin, and you'll see why at the end. So for this one, I'm going to do white, and I'm going to be using the Let's Resin white pigment for this, and it's the opaque pigment. Make sure you give it a good shake, and there's a lot of resin here, so I want to put quite a bit in. Give that a good mix through. Now what I'm going to do is put some mica powder in there, some white mica powder, and give that a really good mix in there. Try and avoid any clumps and lumps. Big thank you to everyone that got me a coffee last month. Thank you so much. People like you, it keep my channel going and warm my heart. And thank you for all the lovely messages that you put in the coffees as well. I read every one. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. And Mrs. Wang, if you're listening, thank you as always. I hope things are getting better now, because I know you've been a bit poorly. She's one of my... Oh, she's been supporting me for so long. So that's all nicely mixed up in there now. What I'm going to do is pour a little bit in to start with. Now I'm just going to rub my finger over these stamps here. Try and release as many of the little trap bubbles that will get trapped in them as possible. Once it's full right up, I'll do the sides as well. Or the one that's on the side here. So now I'm going to just pour this in. Wipe my gloves off with one of these big wipes. As I said before, they get rid of resin so well. Look at that. Lovely and clean. I use my gloves about 4 or 5 times until I split them, to be perfectly honest. I'll leave that to sit there like that, and then I'll burst any bubbles that come up with a long neck lighter. Now this one, for the S, I'm going to be using my favourite colour of all time. I love this colour. And it's yellow. Nothing's complicated. It's just a yellow colour. So give that a good mix in. And now I'm going to pop some yellow mica powder in it as well. And then do the same for this one. Pour a little bit in. Squidge off some of the bubbles. And then fill it up. Massive thank you to all my members as well, whose names are coming up now. If you'd like to become a member and benefit from all the perks of being a member of my channel, and I'm sure my members will tell you there are a lot, and competitions with great giveaways on there, then the link for that is in the description below. Thank you, members. You are an absolute bunch of grafting madness. So now we've done that, I can just fill that right up. I'll go around again on the ones that are on the sides. Release any bubbles that are on those. Quickly go over them with a long neck lighter. I'll do this again in about another 30 minutes. I'll go over it with a long neck lighter. And because I've worked on this board, I can now lift this up gently and move this and let it cure somewhere else, and then I can continue working. So these are all cured now and ready to be demolded. They've been curing for about 38 hours, I would think. Take them off that board. It makes life so much easier using boards. Now, don't be disappointed if some of the things have moved slightly, especially if, like me, you get really impatient and you're not quite sure whether you let the glue on the stamps dry properly, which is my biggest thing. Oh, I'm so impatient. I'm such an impatient crafter. So let's take this one out. Oh no, they look like they've stayed where they should have done. Yes, they have, which is great. Now you need to remove those, and you might find there's a very slight film of resin underneath them. What I like to do is get a little sharp knife there first. See if there is any resin there that needs to come off. Yeah, there is a little layer, and that might be a little layer of resin, and that could be the glue as well. And then your stamp should just come right out. Once you've loosened any on there, all you need to do is kind of roll your thumb over it and then gently pull your stamp out. Don't want to pull it out too tough, because remember, it's got a lot of detail in it, these stamps, and as a result, if you pull it too tough, you might rip it. If you pull it gently, then it should come out completely whole like that, and then you can use your stamp again. and it will leave an impression in your piece like that. So I'll go ahead and I'll finish that one in a sec, but let's have a look at this one. I've got a funny feeling the ones I put on the side of this one did actually come off, so I'm not sure whether these will have worked. But you can see all the stamps in there, and they look all fine. And there's one there I can see, and possibly one there. One did come off and floated to the top, so I had to take that off, and one there. So I'll do the same for those, and then show you what I'm going to do with them next. I got carried away taking these out, and I forgot to show you how to get that tacky glue off. And it really is as simple as this. Before you take the actual thing out, just roll your finger across the stamp, and that will bring off that tacky glue, and then your stamp's as good as new. So all the stamps are out now, and as you can see, these stamps are absolutely perfect. I'll be using those in other projects, whether that's stamping or resin. I really like how the baby one has come out, and it's got a little smiling baby, funny little baby on the edge there. I think that's come out really, really cute. Now, I'm not going to do anything to this one because I like it like that. And as I'm not planning to sell this or anything, I'm going to do a variety of different things on here just to show you what you can do. I'm going to be using some chameleon powders, and I'm also going to be using my chrome markers as well. And we have got patterns going around this as well, on one there on the inside of the S. So I can deal with those at the same time. So these are the J Diction markers that I'm going to be using here. I absolutely love them. I use them in so many different projects, and it just highlights it a little bit more. I love it. And for this one, I'm going to be using the chameleon powder. So I'm using a brush this time to go over it rather than one of the sponge things, and that'll just bring out some of those details. And the last method I'm going to use is with some acrylic paint, and again, always let this dry before you try and do the next bit. Now, I'm not very neat with acrylic paint. You'll get the idea, and I'm sure you can be a lot neater than I am. So that's the one with acrylic paint. I'm going to just finish off now, variety of these in different methods like this, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do to seal them. Now, these are all dry. You don't need to seal the ones where you've used the chrome markers because they're going to be absolutely fine. That will stay on there once it's fully dry. But to seal the ones with the powder in, I'm going to be using the low viscosity UV resin. Just use your brush. You can clean them out using a tiny bit of alcohol in a pot, and it will clean your brush out. I really love how the chrome ones have come out. I think they look amazing. So once you've got that done, all you need to do is pop your light on for 3 minutes, and then they'll cure up, and I'll show you what they both look like finished at the end. So they're all finished now, and do you know what? After seeing how beautiful that chrome looked in there, I actually changed my mind, and I put the chrome in here, and I think that was a good decision. What do you think? Did you prefer it when it was left on its own as just white, or do you prefer it now with the chrome in it? And this one obviously is a variety, like I said, and that has come out really well. These are all lovely and cured, so they're not at all ever going to release that powder or anything, so they won't come off. It's definitely so important to make sure whenever you're casting large things like this, then the deep pour resin by T Expert is definitely the way to go. It is the best deep pour I've ever used. Brilliant for all sorts of things. If I've got a discount code, I'll link that in the description below, along with the links to everything else that I've used. Boot that like button, hit that subscribe button, but most of all, as I always say, enjoy your resin. Bye.